Hey, what's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and today we are ranking the discography of Mudvayne. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Alright, a little burn ding time. Today we are going to rank the albums of Mudvayne, and we will start right from the beginning with 2000's LD50. This is one of my all-time favorite nu metal albums just in general. Mudvayne is a surprisingly kind of talented band within that genre, really. Like, there's a lot of kind of crap to sift through, as with any genre, but man, they've got a super talented bass player and drummer, and like some of the songwriting, especially on this album, is pretty interesting and impressive. Aside from just being super heavy, I have a lot of memories tied to this album, and not only with amazing tracks like Dig and Death Blooms, the big singles, but also some of the deeper cuts too. Nothing to Gain is actually probably my favorite song on this album, and actually whenever this comes up in conversation, I've found that a lot of other people feel the same way. Internal Primates Forever, also a really great one. It's been funny too to see in recent years the whole burn ding become a meme. And so it has like a completely different meaning to a new generation now, but hey, whatever keeps it alive. It's definitely a bit bloated because it's like over an hour long, but still really good. And you ask me, this is their best album, and it is S tier. It's at least A tier. I could even see just putting it at A tier and kind of listing everything below it, because it's not perfect, but for Mudvayne, I would say this is S tier. It's a classic. Then we have The End of All Things to Come in 2002. This was a pretty solid follow-up. I did find it, even at the time, to feel a little too kind of packaged in comparison to the previous album. It lost a little bit of the edge at that point. You've got Silenced for the opening track. That is a killer way to kick off the album. Not Falling, of course, and I will forever tie that song to the movie Ghost Ship. And this is that era too, where every cheesy horror movie had like a metal soundtrack, and I've actually been considering doing a video on this. We were actually talking about it in the Discord. But in any case, yeah, Not Falling, great track. World So Cold, the title track is really good too. Shadow of a Man, I always found corny from the very first time I heard it, that whole mirror mirror lyric thing. I think this is where I started to realize that Chad is not like a master lyricist by any means. Like, he can perform, he can write some cool songs, but he's definitely not one of the frontmen I would list at the top tier of nu metal alongside people like, say, Serge. So all that said, I'm going to put The End of All Things to Come at A tier. All right, then we got Lost and Found in 2005, and this is actually where I already kind of started to fall off the band. I had sort of mixed feelings about The End of All Things to Come. I like it more actually going now listening to it even than I did then. But this was actually their most successful album with over 1 million copies sold at this point, so props to them for that. Get that paper. It had a mixed reception though, a lot of criticism around them becoming kind of more and more mainstream sound, which is something that definitely bothered me at the time. It is a lot better than I remember going back and listening to it again. Determined is a great single still. Fantastic. Love that one. It's just a banger. Happy as well. I didn't actually like that one as much at the time. I was a little irked by the cleaner sound of it, but it's got some good dynamics and a really infectious chorus too. And then Pushing Through has a really fun groove to it. I love the little start-stop breaks in the chorus of Fall Into Sleep. And there's still some really great bass on this album, which is something I can't really say about some of the stuff we're going to talk about. It definitely teeters a little bit in the second half, starts to feel a little bit more generic at that point, but Pulling the String kind of brings it back around and has this nice head-bobbing riff to end things out on. Overall, I was surprised at how much I enjoyed re-listening to this one. I'm going to go ahead and put it at B tier. All right, and then unfortunately, this is where things really kind of start to take a turn with the new game in 2008. It was actually on hold due to work with Hell Yeah. First of all, the cover art is absolute garbage. Like, this is definitely the worst Mudvayne cover out of them all. There's also a lot of like rock and roll influence on here too, which I think is carrying over from Hell Yeah. kind of bleeding through into it. It has its moments. Do What You Do has this pretty infectious vocal cadence that I enjoyed. Have It Your Way has some pretty cool riffs on it as well, but ultimately pretty generic, like pretty just blah. I just kept zoning out as I was listening to this thing. And then some pretty downright just absolutely lame moments too. The singing on A Cinderella Story is pretty terrible. The Hate in Me, Scarlet Letter, Never Enough, and especially Dull Boy. That song is just embarrassing.
Oh my God, you own it. How embarrassing.
So yeah, overall, we're jumping straight past C tier here, and we're gonna put that in D tier. And then Mudvayne, the self-titled in 2009. It opens in an interesting way. Beautiful and Strange is kind of like interestingly weird, but not really good either. It also has a very like cringe music video, pretty tasteless stuff. And there are actually multiple music videos for this album, I realized. I had not, to my memory, actually listened to this, because at this point I had just completely written the band off. I was like, I got LD50. I'm good. I don't need anything else. But yeah, listening to it now, oh man, did I not miss out on anything. And also, one of the biggest criticisms that came up for me is, where the fuck is Rhino on this album? Like, I can occasionally hear his awesome bass work on tracks like Heard It All Before and the intro of Beyond the Pale, but mostly he is just completely wasted on this album. And if you ask me, like, he is potentially the most talented member of the band. Yeah, this is just a pretty bad album. All Talk in particular sounds like it was written by like a 13-year-old. And I gotta say, it's probably worse than The New Game, because at least The New Game like had a couple tracks, a couple of moments that I was interested in. I didn't hate The New Game. I just thought it was like not very good. This I pretty much hate. Like, it is just absolutely generic. It ranges from generic to awful. That's what you get here. I'm either just completely zoning out and not paying attention at all, or I am actively cringing and wincing, probably. I can't think of really a single redeeming factor of this album, honestly. And so if I had an F tier up here, I would put it at F tier, so I'm just going to tack it on to the end of D tier. But yeah, now it's your turn. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think? How would you rank these Mudvayne albums? How would you do it differently? Which one's your favorite, your least favorite, and why? Where do you disagree with me? Let's have a fun conversation down there without people getting mad. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.